Welcome to the second of our two-part series on the history of 3D animation. In Part 1, we explained how 3D animation came to be, who innovated the art form in its early days, and what some of the first 3D animated films were before the genre exploded into popularity. Now we are going to take a look at the evolution of 3D animation, how it developed in the 90s and early 2000s, how it became one of the most important aspects of modern cinema, and where it could go from here. If you haven't seen Part 1 yet, make sure to look in this video's description to watch it before or after this video. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Now let's dive in. Which brings us to the subsequent development of 3D animation. With the software and technology growing in advancement, the 1990s were a sweet spot for 3D animation. Studios, filmmakers, and animators were all ready to take a risk on this new medium, and so they did. The decade was kicked off with James Cameron's Terminator 2: Judgment Day, which, though it was live action, contained stunning visual effects of an intricacy completely foreign to audiences. Jurassic Park, now a cultural phenomenon, then took this one step further with more than realistic and larger-than-life dinosaurs. Unsurprisingly, the realm of entirely animated works expanded too. VeggieTales, out in 1993, marked the first fully 3D animated series. Not long ago, the iconic Toy Story came along as the first fully 3D computer-animated feature-length film. The success of the innovative Toy Story, both critically and commercially, placed it firmly into the limelight. Its box office gross of $363 million made it clear that 3D animation was here to stay, and so was Pixar. At the time, the company had been in its early years, co-founded by the same Edwin Catmull, who introduced the first 3D animated hand. The 90s were quickly coming to an end, but not for nothing. The turn of the century was only going to bring more good news for the 3D animation industry. For one, George Lucas was beginning to reap the rewards of his continued belief in animation. In The Phantom Menace and The Attack of the Clones, almost all the added effects used the technology of 3D animation. In fact, Jar Jar Binks was one of the first fully computer-generated characters to hit the silver screen. In 2009, Avatar broke records for its incorporation of 3D animation at the highest level yet. Realistic human-like creatures, extensive world-building, and manufactured sets were all made possible through 3D animation, making it an option that was not only preferable but the highly coveted ideal go-to. By now, technology had flourished, computers had become widespread, and 3D animation was well on its way to its current-day multi-million status. 3D animation today. These days, when you think of 3D animation, you might think of this. Kids' movies nowadays are often seen as the face of animation. But in truth, 3D animation as an art form has never been more viable or versatile. Which goes to say, though it may not be what first comes to mind, animation is used in media far and wide. In fact, you would be hard-pressed to name a recent film that didn't use 3D animation technology in any way, shape, or form. The seamless combination and intersection of live-action and 3D animation is another innovation to come out of the 21st century. From more obvious uses, to unnoticeable additions, to ways of adding artistic flair, animation can find a home in nearly any kind of filmmaking. A distinct emphasis has been placed on realism, with 3D animation technology frequently applied to blur what is animated versus what is real. And more often than not, animated objects stand in for real ones without us ever noticing. And films are just the beginning. 3D animation is certainly found in television, but also in video games, virtual reality, advertising, and education. The presence of 3D animation is strong and even still on the rise. And as we move forward with more advanced technology and greater accessibility than ever before, the biggest question is, what does the future have in store for 3D animation? As an art form largely supported by tech and the software world, 3D animation is bound to see enhancements in terms of capability and complexity. AI and machine learning has the potential to speed up the animating workflow, perhaps also opening the field up to a greater range of possible animation styles. Likewise, phenomena like photorealism and 4D animation are just now taking off, and also involve 3D animation. Some of the more current trends, such as virtual reality and augmented reality, will also continue to evolve. In fact, these are two disciplines which have already proven to be promising applications of 3D animation. The mainstream quality of 3D animation will likely be amplified further. Be prepared to see uses of 3D animation in business, everyday communication, and marketing. Even now, believe it or not, 3D animation software is being used in the 2D animation industry. Without a doubt, aspiring 3D animations have grown exponentially since the early 21st century. Many want to get in on this fast-growing industry and contribute to an art form that is, all things considered, still quite young. The appeal of a creatively driven, ever-evolving, and innovative medium is as much of a catch today as it was in the 1900s. And as we move towards the future, creating high-quality 3D animation work will only get easier and easier. And don't forget, a lot can change in slightly over a century, or even in just a decade if the 70s and 80s were any indication. Regardless of what the future holds, it's clear that 3D animation has come far from its humble roots. Now the industry looks set to move in a plethora of exciting new directions. One thing is for sure, 3D animation has made a unique and everlasting mark on the world as we know it, and no doubt will continue to. Thank you for watching this video on the history of 3D animation from InFocus Film School. And that's it for our two-part series on the history of 3D animation. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and follow InFocus Film School on Instagram, Facebook, and all our other social platforms. If you are interested in studying 3D animation, look for a link to our 3D animation course in the description of this video to learn more and speak to an admissions advisor. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.